On this episode of The Badge and Beyond, we may be discussing domestic violence, mental health issues, suicide, and self-harm.
If you would like support and someone to talk to, the right avenues in your local area would be appreciated for you to have a look at those options. Please make use of avenues such as Lifeline on 13 11 14 and also for domestic violence hotline 1-800-RESPECT. So viewer and listening discretion is advised.
Welcome to The Badge and Beyond. I'm Anthony, this is Danny, and this is episode number 8. Is it 8? There you go. 7?
Yep.
Okay.
You don't even know what episode we're on, bro.
Don't even say episode numbers, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We can jumble.
Yeah.
Welcome to The Badge and Beyond. I'm Anthony, this is Danny, and today we want to talk about when you go above and beyond the call of duty. Now, it's probably something that's often lauded, but we don't talk about much, is the opportunity to get out and about and interact with people and do good things. And you don't do it for, accolades. You do it because you want to help people. But sometimes that goes really well, and sometimes that goes really bad. Now, Danny, look, one of the reasons people in your community respond to you, I think, is because I know you've done this like dozens, if not hundreds of times. Give me a time when you've gone above and beyond, just beyond law enforcement to try to help someone.
Look, it's a tough one because a lot come to mind, but I suppose maybe my first proper domestic violence one where it wasn't so overt, if that makes sense. I was really junior. I was actually manning the station at Bankstown at the time, the old police station that I was there, where the courthouse is now. And a lady had come in with a young, like a toddler. She was probably in her 30s. And English wasn't her first language. And she had this, like an infringement. And I thought she was coming to complain about a ticket. And in those days, remember that the parking officers were with the police in the same kind of station, and then they used the same material and the same kind of ticket book. But you could tell which one was from their book and which one was from the police book. So I'm looking at it, and it's definitely a police infringement. And she's coming to pay. And I'm like, so then I was confused. We don't accept payment for this stuff, do we? Because again, I was fairly junior, but not too junior. And but you know how it is. One day they'll change the system and no one knows about it, and all of a sudden, didn't you do the online learning? Anyway, so I work out pretty quickly she's confused. So I explained to her in her language. I could understand and speak her language. You don't pay the ticket here. And she was really kind of worried. No, you need to let me pay this here. And I'm like, again, this is the system. And the RTA, back in the day, RTA was just back across the road. Just go back there. She goes, how long that's going to take? I don't want my husband to wait. He gets angry when he waits. And I was paying close attention to her. And I noticed that there was some markings on her arms. And just on the crease of the elbow, I could see like ligature marks, but not.
Yeah.
Like it looked like something had been sort of tied. It had the rope striations on it.
Yeah.
It looked like something had.
So it's kind of like the bruising is coming out, but in the pattern.
Yes, in a pattern. You can see the stripes, right? And then I looked over at the other arm, and it was a bit covered by like something she was wearing, but it was the same. It was uniform, right? So I'm like, okay, something's not right. And I just said, okay, let me help you with that paperwork. Let's go into the interview room. And she's like, okay. So she takes the kid, and I take her inside, and I'm talking to her, and I said to her, can I ask you a question? She goes, okay, what's with this? She goes, yeah, that's from the rope. And it was just as casual as you like. And I'm like, what rope? She goes, well, last weekend there was a pretty big, decent storm, and my husband wanted to teach me a lesson. So what she proceeded to explain is that he tied me to the Hills hoist outside while it was raining to appreciate what he does for me, like he provides shelter and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm trying to hold back the shock, right? And I'm watching as I'm talking to her, her kid has taken out a lighter, and he's sort of keeps trying to light it on her ankle.
Yeah.
And then I noticed there's actually burn marks on her ankles. And I said, what's he doing? She goes, he's just copying what his dad does. And I'm like, what? And then as we got on, I noticed marks in different parts, like on her face. And every time I'd ask where this mark come from, and I'm not going to get into too much detail, it was due to some kind of assault that her husband had done.
Yeah.
And she said it so nonchalantly, like it was expected, like that's just what he does.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I'm furious at this stage. And I go, oh yeah, what does he do for a living? And she goes, he's a security guard.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see this security license.
Yeah.
So I'm really annoyed. And she's like, look, he'll be coming soon because he dropped me off so I can pay this thing, all this kind of stuff. And I said, look, you're not going back. He's done this, he's done that. And this is just when, not when the new AVO system came in, so it's still a bit of a struggle to get AVOs. I think this was, it might have been late 99, early 2000. Yeah, early 2000 would be, because I would have been, it would have been 2000. And I was speaking to supervisors and whatever, and we're like, all right, she doesn't want him arrested, she doesn't want this, you know the drill.
Yeah,
but
the policy was different then. Now they've got a proactive arrest policy. Back then, you kind of needed the victim to be on board.
But we had enough fears for her safety to satisfy that we could at least do the AVOs and take her away. She would have to give a statement to do with the injuries and how they were sort of affected, but it was just really sort of serious stuff. This guy had done a lot of damage to her, but more psychologically, sort of, he's manipulated her to believe that this is the right way to be, in terms of accepting that kind of behaviour. So I'm now calling services. There's no online stuff kind of thing. So I'm calling services, getting things organised, and I feel like she understands that this is really serious. You don't do this in this country. This is not what happens. This is there's significant crimes. Your son already has some kind of psychological sort of effect from this, and we need to get onto this early. And we end up taking her to a hotel in the meantime while we organise a refuge, because she's got a child. It's sometimes a bit harder to find refuges that are free with kids.
Yeah.
Now, she's never been through any of this before in her life, doesn't understand.
And she's only walked into the station to pay a fine.
That's right.
And all this is happening.
All this is happening.
Yeah.
Now, while I've done this, I've left instructions for the other guy at the station, and because I'm the only one that speaks the language, they swap me with a general duties car officer. He takes the station, I jump in the car with his partner, and I take this job, right? So, tell him when this guy comes in, let's arrest him. Anyway, I go with her and the kid, and we speak to the ones that run the motel and say, look, this is the situation, temporary. Now, I don't know if you know those situations, if you've got a phone in the room, but there's a switchboard.
Yep.
So the hotel can sort of transfer, and it knows what calls are coming in and out because they've got a switchboard at the place. And after I've explained everything to her, you're only going to be here for a day, tomorrow we'll be taken to a refuge, all this kind of stuff. I don't know why, but I just think to myself, let me talk to the owner of the hotel or the manager. I go, listen, if any calls come in or out, I want to know about it. And I go, can you tell me numbers? He goes, I'm not sure if I can tell you which number she calls, but I can definitely call you and see if there's something. I go, okay. We hadn't left the driveway of the hotel, and he calls me. I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, she just made a call. And I'm like, okay, can you tell me? He goes, I don't know which number, but she's made a call. So stop the car. I go back, knock on the door, open it, and she's got the mobile in her hand.
Like the cordless...
Sorry, the handset. The handset.
Yeah.
I go, who'd you call? And she goes, oh, I called him. What if he wants to talk to his kid? Mind you, this has been like an hour, 2 hours. So then I tell my partner, just sit down, re-explain, listen, understand, this is the process, this is what's going on. Okay. And then I'm calling other services to come and sit down and explain to her. This becomes my whole shift.
Yeah.
Right? And even getting people to speak to the child, and like this, just it was a very large production, so to speak. And by the end of it, okay, she gets it. I told her, did you give the name of the refuge, or the hotel where you are? She said, no. I told them I'm in a hotel. This. And I'm like, do I move her now? But she,
Plus the effort of moving her, right? Like it's
hard
hard
to
get
it's not
her
easy,
into a
and it's
hotel.
not like, oh yeah, the police will just spring for it. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way, especially back then. Anyway, she stays in the hotel. That's I think it was like it would have been a Friday, I think, that day. So, okay, the job's done. Saturday morning, I'm off duty. I'm going to the shops, right?
And for those that don't know, Danny used to work in the same area where he lived.
Yeah.
Which most cops try to avoid, but not this guy.
Yeah. Saturday morning, I went to the shops, and like ahead of me, there's I can see some people, and I see what gets my attention is the kid, this little toddler, and he's getting screamed at by his dad because he doesn't want to sit in the pram, so he's getting out and whatever. The stroller, sorry. And I look, and I'm like, that's them. So there she is, pushing the stroller. Dad's chastising the kid, and everyone's like happy families. 24 hours later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, what the hell did I do this for? Like, and they're back together. So I'm angry, right? Again, naive. Like, I'm very junior. So I make an effort to walk so that he sees me. Now he doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
Right? But she does. And she just smiled. And I looked at her and went, and it continued. And I remember when I later on started to get into teaching domestic violence to the processes to the police and getting involved in really like the working parties, all that kind of stuff. I would draw upon that example that there's so many reasons why that happened, right? But when you're when you're on the ground and you're new and you don't understand the complexities, you look at it as like what a waste of time, a betrayal or a futile. What's the point of trying, all that kind of stuff, and you really shouldn't do that. Yeah. So there you go.
Yep. I think, I know from I've had similar experience. I mean, most cops would have had similar experiences where you get abused by the victim of a DV, or you get, you see them back with the offender and you're kind of like, why? I don't understand. We've gone to all this effort to save you and then you're back. Obviously now, 20 years on from where we were back then, the training's different. You understand that there's a bond, this connection between victim and offender. Yeah. But back then, particularly, and as a young person that doesn't have that life experience, how old were you? Like 20
yeah, 20s,
something?
Early
Yeah.
20s.
Like the same thing for me at 21, 22, and I was like, what the hell are you doing? Just leave, right? But it's that thing. This episode of the Badge and Beyond podcast is brought to you through the sponsorship of
IC Technology. You can find them on ictechnology.com.au for all things IT and cyber.
And Precision Integrity Services, who you can find at privateinvestigatorsydney.com.au. For me, a couple of my experiences, because I want to, sometimes it's about doing little things, sometimes it's about doing big things, and sometimes it's everything in between. And I guess my hope in pointing this out is so that people understand you never know what good deed is going to follow through. So it seems stupid, but I remember being a probie and we went to a guy that was acting suspiciously in a park.
And by proby, you mean probationary
Constable, yeah, and I'd only been out for a
you're
couple
a
of
rookie.
months. Yeah, rookie. For anybody that's been in the job has heard that from any number of louts, so to speak. And we go to this guy, and he's just sitting on a park bench on a Saturday afternoon, with a couple of bags, and he's obviously living rough, living out of his car. And we talk to him. He's like, he's a guy in his 40s. Everything's gone bad for him, and but he's got no money. He's in this park because he's got nowhere else to be, and someone's called the police on him. And we chat to him. He's just doing it tough. And I remember walking away, and I say to the sergeant who turned up with us, I'm like, oh, look, it's been a busy day. I haven't eaten my lunch. That guy's not got anything. Is it all right if I give him my lunch? Because what else am I going to give him? And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, I was like, cool, like I can actually do good things. So I give this guy my lunch, and I think it was just peanut butter sandwiches or something terrible. But he was like, oh, thanks, mate. That was really, really appreciate it, because he just didn't have the money to buy certain things. And I think one of the things I always wanted to do in the cops was try to give back or help people in need. I think a lot of us want to be like that, but that's not the thing that gets promoted a lot in the academy. You don't hear about it. So then one night, take that years later I was a sergeant at Campsie, and we're right on the border at Campsie and Bankstown is on Canterbury Road is where all the ladies of the night tend to hang out. And I used to, anybody that's done GDs, when you're not responding to jobs, you kind of have like your little patrol route, like the little hubs that you want to get to and hit up, because that's where the crime's going to be if you're being proactive. So I'd work my way around the command, and wherever one job found me, I'd just keep going around. And so I used to get to the border and turn around and come back and go down the street and go left and back into my patrol. And I was just inside Bankstown. And one night I come down, and he's this beat up like Ford panel van, and as I turn in the street, I see it drive away from the curb, but when I say from the curb, it's been parked with the back wheel on the curb, like whoever's parked has done a hideous job. And then they're off down the road, the headlights aren't on, it swerves slightly, and I'm like, this guy's just been with one of the ladies, he's probably drunk, he's drink driving, I'll pull him over and do the breath test. I pull him up, and it's 3 ladies of the night there, and the car's just a squalid mess. And straight away I'm like, can I get another car? And a Bankstown car jumps on, turn up, and it's a guy and a girl. And while I'm looking at this Ford, it's like there's not a panel on it that's not damaged. All 3, and if you know those ladies, a lot of the time they're in a difficult position. They found themselves in circumstances they didn't know how to get themselves out of. And look, so they're often alcoholics, drug addicts, things like that. And in the back of this panel van is like the world's filthiest mattress, and just like mess and junk everywhere. And thankfully the Bankstown car crew was really quick, and they get out and they're like, hey boss, what's going on? Do you want a hand? You got to lock someone up? You can search? I'm like, mate, if you want to search the car, you can. I wouldn't let my dog go near that car. Like, do not touch it. They're like, well, what do you need us for? I'm like, I just want a witness, right? Like, I don't want to be one, because, you work alpha as a supervisor, alpha being one up, you're only by yourself. I said, I just want some witnesses when with these 3 ladies. And as I'm talking to the driver, I run her, she's this young 20-something-year-old girl, and I run her license, and suspended and disqualified, and she's done for, and she's like, I could go to jail for this. And I start talking to her. Now, I still remember her name, but she's like, when you get it's the backstory that kind of leads into where they end up. So here's this thing she's stuck with a, and when I say thing, I mean like the thing that brought her to that. She's just grown up in a middle-class family. Dad worked in the airlines, mum was a stay-at-home mum. They separated. She's got a brother that's got neurological issues, and then, one thing leads to the other. Mum's hanging out with the wrong crowd, gets into drugs. She gets the brother into drugs, and then this young woman is the only one trying to support the family through a like a casual kind of work like retail and stuff that's just never going to work. So they start looking like they're going to lose the house, get kicked out. She ends up like, because she's young and pretty, gets basically pushed into prostitution. And she's supporting mum, brother and herself and their drug habits and everything off that. And as it was, mum's in the car, mum's, there's that other female, drug addict as well. And I'm like, all I'm doing by giving her a ticket or giving her that it's actually a charge because she's driving while disqualified or suspended, is continuing that cycle. But also, she can't be on the road. So what I said to her was, I've got to come back and give you this, it's like a field can. Yeah. I'll do all the charge and I'll bring that back to you tomorrow. Will you be around here tomorrow night? She's like, yeah, we'll be here. So the next night I come down, she's not there. I try to ring the phone, she's not there. I'm like, oh, great. Because anybody who's done that procedure knows how hard it is to find someone, even though I've got a detail. So I go back to the station and look her up, and she's in custody at another police station. And it's the next station over, so I'm like, okay. So I drive over there, I go into custody, I'm like, what are you doing? And she's literally sitting in the dock and she's crying. I'm like, I told you not to drive. And she's been caught driving disqualified. In between. In 24 hours, she's been caught and charged again. And I'm like, oh. And she's kind of having a moment of sobriety. So I'm like, just, do you want to be in this life? Is this what you want? She's like, no, I don't like what I do. I don't love it. I hate it. I said, well, look, I'm prepared to try and get you out of it, but I'm on my last night shift. I said, I think I've got 5 or 6 days. I'm back. This is the day I will organise stuff in my days off. Come back and see me at the station at this time and place. She's got my name and my details on the charge paperwork. So that week, I'm calling sexual health clinics. I'm calling drug detox clinics. I got onto a couple of counsellors. I'm trying to orchestrate for her to get out of that life and go into rehab and turn her life around. And then she doesn't turn up. And then the next day, I try to ring her, she doesn't turn up. And, I feel like a bit of a fool because I've said to the station staff, feeling like I've got a lot of faith in this woman that she'll turn up. I'm like, if this lady turns up, just tell her to wait for me and I'll do whatever. And she never comes around. Then I see her a few more times working the street, and she's always on drugs and always doing the same kind of thing. And then I remember I got a dissemination about the charge, and I looked her up, and she's out west, and she's been charged multiple times for drug possession and this and that. And I'm like, just progressively see that cycle taking her down. And I went to all that effort on my days off, feeling like a goose, and it never eventuated to anything. But you don't know when something's going to work, right? You don't know what you do, and there's the little things that work. So one day, take that to when I'm an inspector and I'm out in the eastern suburbs, and we get a phone call about a guy that's kind of alcoholic, mental health, suicidal ideations, and he's disappeared from the home, threatening to kill himself. And I go down to near a beach near his place, and the beach itself is pretty small, so I can see it from the top, and he's not there. But then I look around the headland, I'm like, there's multiple little alcoves he could be in there. But I'm one guy, and it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, I don't know why. I'm just like, usually the inspector won't walk the beach to do the search, but I'm like, give it a crack. Anyway, I go for a walk, and lo and behold, they're probably about 2-3 metres up on like a rock shelf. Here's a guy, metho, and sunglasses on, a bag, and a knife. And as soon as he sees me, he's like, F off, I'll F and kill you. And you get that thing, you just, you kind of know that you can work with that. He's already opened the lines of communication. So I start talking to him, and while I'm talking to him, I'm slowly climbing up the rocks trying to make sure I can, basically I'm saying to him, I need to be able to hear you better and do whatever. So then I keep talking to him, and just he's become complacent, so I just moved the knife away. And by this time, three other guys had turned up, but they're all kind of like below me. And when I moved the knife away and the alcohol, he's just like, oh, damn it! I wanted to. I'm like, you know. So we start going through his life, and he's this guy, he's like, you know, alcohol, gambling, separated from his wife, lost contact with his kids. And, you know, and while we call the ambos down and we get him off, we talk him down and we take him back to the hospital. And I said, look, I've been with you the whole time. I'll ride in the ambo with you and we'll just talk. So while we're going back up to the ambo and talking, and I end up in the emergency department hanging out with him for a little bit. And we just talking about being a dad and what it means and why you need to be a good dad and how important it is to establish contact with the children. And, you know, nothing's futile and things like that. That was well beyond what's expected of my rank, because that's considered, you know, inspectors don't take people to the hospital. You're damn sure not riding in the freaking ambo. Yeah. And you're on to the next job. But I just felt I had that level of communication. We were a similar age, and yeah, we could speak from experience. I was separated. I understood that difficulty. So, you know, talking to him and just saying, look, there's huge numbers of things you can get to help you when you really need to get back to your daughter. And, you know, I think we tried to connect him with AA, and when I spoke to the hospital, got them connected with like their alcohol and drug service and whatever else. So, you know, look, out of my day, what was an extra, maybe an hour, right? About 5 weeks later, that guy came in and spoke to actually one of the junior constables that was on that crew that helped out. And she came and saw me and she said, hey, boss, you know that guy that we talked off the other day, I talked off the ledge? He came in and he's like turned his life around, he's sober, he's spoken to his wife, he's getting in contact with his daughter, he's getting back on, like getting a job. Like, you know, sometimes you got to hit your lowest point, sometimes it's just about doing a little bit more. And that story for me was about, you know, policing when you're not just doing law enforcement, when it's not just about arrest, charge, go to court, move on. It's about how you create a change in society through individual actions. And that 1 hour of my time versus what could be a life-changing experience for that guy and his daughter and his wife. And it's not necessarily about, you know, every cop's going to do that. It's not about just me doing that. It's about the opportunities that exist there in policing. Yeah. That the guys and girls don't get trained in a lot and aren't often given that great leeway of, hey, you know what, take the extra half an hour or hour to look after that person. Yeah. You know, give them a little bit of specialist attention, because really it's the epitome of proactivity. If we help turn that guy's life around, we don't have to go back. We don't have to deal with all the mental health issues and suicidal issues that are going on there. And I really felt good about that personally, because I was able to connect and help someone else on a personal level.
I think sometimes it surprises you when it comes back. I remember I've always been doing some level of charity work, and most of my time actually was in local charity. Like I'm in, you know, international now, but for most of my time I was doing local charity, especially when I was a police officer. And I remember I was going to a cafe to have a meeting for a charity I was a part of the management for. And it was not going to be a good meeting. Like I was contemplating standing down in that meeting, which I didn't tell anybody. And it was just, I was drained. It was just, you know, a lot of things happening in my life at the time. And I was like, I need to step back from a few things. And people weren't listening and just making silly decisions. And I was just like, I think I'll take this opportunity for this, because I've got everyone there, to actually stand down. Because I'm kind of thinking, what's the point? Anyway, because I was there early, I was by myself on the table, and like a young man, walks up to me, and he's one of the waiters in the cafe, and he looks at me and he goes, "You're that copper, Danny." And I thought, here we go. Probably locked up his... not in the mood. Like, I'm like, oh, please, like, not today. And I said to him, yep. And he goes, what coffee are you having? And I told him whatever. And he goes, I'll be right back. So I'm like, okay.
And you're waiting for him to spit in it,
I'm like, it's going to get spat in. Like, this is just not going to... And I'm trying to look because I can see the barista machine. Like, so I'm watching it. It's fine. He's ordered he's not making the coffee. The barista is, but my eyes aren't off him now. So he brings it over, and he goes, look, I don't want to disturb you, but can I have a chat with you? And I'm thinking, okay, I've probably got to get him off a fine or something. It's one of those. And again, because I'm so not motivated, this is not the time for it. But something told me to just swallow it and accept, And he goes, I just wanted to tell you. He goes, you won't remember me. He goes, but I definitely remember you. And he mentioned the high school, and that when he was in year 10. And we're going back a few years now, right? At least 4 years at that stage. And I said, yeah. He goes, you came out with another officer to our school. So what I used to do as part of my duties then is if a kid was about to get expelled from a school, the school would contact my team, and we would come out as like a last intervention kind of thing before they go out to the real world. And
so get the batons and the phone books lined up and, teach them.
I do remember with some kids, I remember throwing the handcuffs out onto the table before I talked to them. But with this one, it was a bunch of intelligent boys. It was a cohort of year 10 boys, and they'd gotten into their own little mini race war with each other, just absorbing what was happening around them at the time, and so because I had a multicultural team, like us, it would have been the equivalent of me and you talking to them. So I took aside the boys, that were from my cultural background, and I just laid into them with words. Right? And I said to them, look, I basically gave them the reality of life and how how you need to hold yourself to a certain standard.
Yeah.
And the waiter said to me, he goes, you gave me the D-Day speech. And when he said that, it clicked. Because obviously D-Day has war connotations, as obviously what D-Day was. I used it because it represents my name.
Yeah.
Right. So I would give them the history lesson into what D-Day was, and then tell them, you're getting the D-Day speech because it's from Danny, and basically is who do you want to be? Do you want to be what society expects you to be, which is a failure? Is that what you want to live up to?
Yep.
Or do you want to turn your life around and actually do something about it and use that fire and energy to actually motivate you to achieve something constructive? And it was along those lines. Anyway, the waiter said to me, he goes, I went home that day, and he goes, and I thought about it, and I said, no, I don't want to be what they expect me to be. He goes, I stayed in school, my grades turned around, and I said, I want to be able to protect other people from breaking the law. And he decided he wanted to pursue law.
Yeah.
Now, this guy's grades weren't law-worthy at the time, but he did exceptionally well in his HSC, and he goes to me, I'm now enrolled in my first year of law at the University of blah, blah, blah. And he just said, I just want to say thank you, and he shook my hand, and he goes, and the coffee's on me. And I was like... And he walked off, and it just made my day.
Yeah.
It made my day. I ended up not standing down from that charity. Lucky I didn't. It became just a different mindset after that. Sometimes it works, but it might take 4 years to come back.
Yeah. And I think when you consider it, I saw a statistic. I think they were talking about people's interaction with like people of religion and converting to a religion, and they said like it takes at least 13 contacts or more. And the point is, the first guy that tries to convert someone, help someone change their life, feels like a failure because he doesn't achieve anything. And the 13th, 14th, 15th person has a conversation with someone, and they're like, hey, look, I want to join that faith. And they feel like they're, God's angel, say.
Yeah.
And, they're like fully pumped. But all those people beforehand tried to do the same thing and nothing happened. And I think that's a great analogy for police and frontline workers, in that you don't know what resonates with someone, and you may never see the impact of that.
Yeah.
You may never know that you have a conversation with someone and they go home and go, you know what? I'm not acting the way I should, right? Yeah. I'm not acting with honour and integrity and being the man I could be or the woman I could be. And So you become a bit jaded and you feel like you're not achieving anything, but honestly, you're probably making great inroads. But I think we all need everybody in the same. The number of times I've seen just so many cops do really good work, and one cop that was just having a bad day or not switched on to that concept just ruined all that good work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of the team environment that we need to work in as well. Easier said than done, though, really.
Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. And we look forward to our next one on The Badge and Beyond.
And remember, if you want to send us any hints, tips, or comments, or ideas or topics you'd like to hear about, you can send us a form off the website at www.privateinvestigativesydney.com.au. Thanks, guys.
You look so weird with one sleeve.
So that's just some of the things we've done in our time trying to be...
What?
Because I'm like, how's he going to segue this back in? So that's some of the shit we do.
Yeah, I was struggling. I'm not gonna lie. Screw you guys. I'm gonna ham. You guys ham. Wow.